we as Latinos have an entrepreneur spirit. We just need to have the guidance.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Peter O. Estevez Show. This is your host, Peter O. Estevez. And today I have a great friend of mine, Patricio J. Gutierrez. Patricio is the founder and managing attorney of Gutierrez Law Group, PLLC, and focuses his practice on corporate international transactional law. As a business and corporate lawyer, Patricio advises clients on a variety of transactions, including mergers and acquisitions, business formation, contract drafting and negotiation, federal trademark registration. He assists domestic and international clients with the creation of governance and sale of corporations, limited liability companies, partnerships, limited partnerships, and other legal entities in the state of Texas. Patricio advises foreign companies in matters concerning business operations in the United States and U.S. companies with businesses operating abroad. With a bilingual prime of counsel Mexican firm with offices in various cities in Mexico, Patricio's law firm assists companies operate with legal parameters of international trade to maintain the competitive edge in a global market. Patricio has successfully represented U.S.-based and international clients in cross-border transactions involving inbound and outbound mergers of acquisitions, product distribution, joint ventures, international licensing, franchising agreements, contractual and commercial agreements. Patricio obtained his Juris Doctor from SMU Demon Law School and earned a BA of Political Science from the University of Texas here in Austin. During law school, he pursued comparative law program at the University of Oxford in the United Kingdom. Patricio was admitted to practice in law in Texas, as well as the United States District Court of the Northern District of Texas. Hello, Patricio, and welcome to the Peter O. Estevez Show. Happy to have you, Patricio.
No, thank you, Peter. Thank you. I appreciate the invitation, and thank you for all you do for inspiring, the young men and women to reach their potential. Thank you again for the invitation.
Oh, thank you so much. It's an honor to have you here on the podcast. You and I go back a few years. You and I were talking about this before we hit the record button on the podcast. I remember when you were not even in law school when I met you. You actually were I think you were at UT at the time, and you were young man, and I'm happy to see what you've done and how much you accomplished. And that is primarily one of the reasons that we invited you to the podcast. Take us kind of through your journey. You have a very impressive resume, and I just read it. But let's talk about Patricio, the young boy, the South Texas young boy. Who is Patricio? Who are his parents? Who is his family?
Of course, Peter. Thank you. I was born in South Texas, in a small town or small city in Brownsville, which is the tip of Texas. It's on the border and on the sea. And I immediately went back home to Matamoros, which is like the sister city across the border. So I was raised in Matamoros until I was 16. It's very common in border towns like Brownsville, Matamoros, McAllen, Reynosa, Laredo, Nuevo Laredo, to possibly live in the Mexican side but go to school in the U.S. And people, I recall, when I went to college and telling people, I used to cross the border every single day to go to school, and they were astonished because, but it's you just cross a bridge, show your passport, and 10 minutes from your house, in 10 minutes you're already on the American side going to school. So that was kind of my childhood. It's four of us, my sister and my parents, small family. We're very close. My sister lives in Dallas. My parents still live in South Texas. I was fortunate to go to college at UT, and then during college and law school, I did several internships. I was at the White House, I was at the Capitol, and I ended up law school at SMU here in Dallas. I graduated 18. I took the bar, and I've been practicing for about 3 years now, and here I am in Dallas.
I love it. So, but tell me, what was it that interested you? I'm one of 13 children. I didn't pursue college right out of high school. I actually had a detour and then went back to college after I was actually successful in business. I didn't have the traditional route to school, which is very common for a lot of the Hispanic families. Most of the children are not even prepared or thought or encouraged to go to college. So what was it that, how was it that you, what interested you about pursuing college and going to law school particularly?
Of course. I'm a first generation American. My parents have no clue about how to go to college in the US, how to become an attorney, because they were always raised in Mexico. They always lived in Mexico. But they had a very clear vision that although they had a limited knowledge on how to be successful in the US, which they wanted me to pursue my dreams in the US, not in Mexico at that time due to the violence, they knew that maybe we as parents don't have the answers for Patricio, but I'm going to make sure he knows who to talk to, which doors to knock to get those answers. And that's something I'd like to touch on later on about mentorship. I think that's a key to success, because my parents, during high school, when I had no clue about college, how to pay for college, how to get scholarships, loans, my parents sent me with "Ve con tu tío that he went to college in the U.S. and talk to him," or "Go with Juanito's dad, who is a lawyer and a banker." And they kind of pushed me at a very young age to listen to other people to get those answers that maybe they didn't have. And when I went to college, my parents kind of installed that chip in me, to knock on doors and to seek mentorship, to seek guidance from individuals that might have been in my position, because and not only Latinos, look for non-Latinos as mentors, and try to see what they have done, or ask for guidance, or what they would have done differently in your position. So I think mentorship is key. But again, the vision my parents had, that although they had no clue about how things worked professionally in the US, how they instilled to knock on doors and to seek career guidance was very important.
That's very commendable. That's very commendable that even though I don't know whether your parents had a formal education or not, but they knew that you needed one. And they knew that you needed to pursue one to make sure that you broke that cycle of being first generation college graduate in the U.S. and your sister as well. So tell me, who was your first mentor, and how did you identify that was a mentor to you? Who was that first person that if you could go back to, that you always remember and say, he or she's that person that really changed my life?
I've had many mentors in various industries at various times of my life, from professors to attorneys to businessmen. But there's one that's here in Dallas that really made an impact in my professional life, and pushed me to seize opportunities, and that I'm always going to be grateful with that person. That was during before starting law school, and he always told me about the importance of networking, about listening to others, about seizing the opportunities, about being active, about having a seat at the table, about giving back to the community. Because in this country, we're told about ambition and successful, and money and money and money. But I think it's not about money. It's about being successful. I don't think it's all about being rich and famous. Being successful is about you being happy as a person, and giving back to the community. For me, is having a family, being happy with yourself at your job, giving back to the community. So giving back to the community, I think it's the perfect receipt to being happy, to motivate yourself to do good at your job, to do good at home, to do good with others. So that was very, all the lessons that he gave me before starting law school was a lot about being involved as a Latino, because I personally don't see it's proportionate. For example, Texas, I'm not sure when, but it will be very soon, that it's going to be majority Hispanic. Now, is the population proportionate to Latinos on boards, Latinos as CEOs, Latinos as elected officials? I still don't see the proportionality between population and leadership positions, and I think it's important to focus and do what Peter Esteves does, and the Excelente movement of inspiring, young Latinos to reach their potential, which the potential is there by default. We as Latinos have an entrepreneur spirit. We just need to have the guidance. We need to teach or educate, young high school students that they have the potential. They just need the guidance and how to go to college, how to seek scholarships, or how to seek mentors, how to seek counselors, how to seek, once you open your business, it's important to have your accountant and your consultant and your financial planner and your lawyer. I mean, these small things are things that I think sometimes are lacking in our culture, and that's why I think it's important, the mentorship, and that's what my mentor taught me over the last 5 years.
And I love that. And you brought up a whole bunch of points. You brought up from networking to mentorship to basically getting involved and becoming a member of your community and pursuing and asking for help, right, whenever you need it, which a lot of times is contradictory to what we are raised to believe as young Latinos, right? Keep your head down, don't rock the boat, stay in your lane. So there's almost like a training process that a retraining process, okay, and an untrain and retrain of the mind and the belief system that we need to do. And you're right, that is primarily why I started Excelente, because I noticed that a lot of the things that I was taught with my parents, whether they're taught by my parents or my community or my social conditioning, although it was well intended, at some point it no longer served me. I was way contradictory for me to be able to pursue some type of success, right? Like, keep your head down. Well, if I keep my head down, nobody's going to notice me, right? If I stay in my lane, how do I network? If I don't ask for help, or if I have to have a sense of humility and I don't ask for help, how do I know how to get to the other side, right? How do I know how to apply for a scholarship? How do I know how to get an internship at the White House? How do I know to become a member of my community that is productive? And I think there's almost like a language, a vocabulary, or a belief system that we need to decode first, okay, reprogram, and we need to have it by having conversations like this, by having conversations with Patricio that has already paved the way, that now Patricio becomes a mentor to the young Latino, to the young Patricio back in South Texas that does not know where to go for help, right? I mean, I think that's one of the things that you just alluded to. Now, tell us a little bit about, you were at the White House, you spent some time there. Tell us about that experience, and what did it do for you, for Patricio, the young Hispanic boy being at the White House? I mean, that's number one, is impressive. It's incredible. And I think you minimize that. So tell us a little bit about that experience.
It was a great experience. It was after my first year of law school. And it was the White House intern program. And I was accepted after a very long process about background checks, criminal check, credit check, and essays and recommendations and clearance. And obviously I understood why it was so complicated, because you were going to be inside the White House and the executive office of the president. That was after the first year. And although it wasn't, while other of my colleagues were going to law firms, I was going to the White House, maybe not so related to the actual practice of law. But I had been as an intern during college at Washington, D.C. So I love that city. And I know that, the opportunities maybe won't come back again after I start practicing law to live in D.C. So there was this opportunity at the White House, and I got admitted, and just walking every day through the front gates of the White House was just an amazing experience. What I learned, the people I met, the friends I made, is something that I wouldn't change. Maybe it wasn't the ideal internship during law school, but again, there's other positive things about just being there, about seeing the president, the vice president, secretaries, and members of Congress and prime ministers from other countries of the world, and going to the ceremonies, was just amazing. I wouldn't change it for anything. It was 3 months that I was in DC, and then I came back with all this knowledge and all the things I saw and the people I met. It was amazing. It was a great experience.
I love that. And I wanted you to talk about that, because I want that young boy, that young girl in Miami or New York or South Texas or here in Austin, Texas, that is listening to you, to know that there's a possibility to be able to accomplish those goals and those dreams if you just pursue them, if you ask for help, if you look for a mentor. You talked about the number of Hispanics the population of Hispanics in the U.S. And currently, or as of 2020, the census of 2020 reported there's 60.1 million Hispanics in the U.S. Okay, and it also reported that by 2060 there would be 111 million, and in turn, 1 out of 4 Americans would be Hispanics. Okay, we are the fastest growing population in the United States. We increasingly pursue higher education and open more businesses than any other race in the U.S. And we contribute 6.1 trillion, okay, 6.1 trillion to the U.S. GDP, okay, which is an amazing and incredible, powerful number, economic engine to the U.S. economy, that if we were our own country, we would be the 8th largest country in the world. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, as far as contribution to the GDP. So with that kind of numbers, I think it's important that we have those conversations, the conversations that you and I are having. And I think it's important that we realize the power that we have as Latinos. But you said something that led me to make the statement. Yes, we need to pursue the seat at the table. We need to pursue the seat at a C level. We need to pursue the political seats, the political representation. We need to proceed all of that. But I think one of the things that we need to understand as Latinos, and I want your input on this, is that is something that we earn. We don't get it. We don't get it because we're Latinos. We don't get it because it's my turn. No, we get it because we earned it. Tell me what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, again, I think this country is the land of opportunities. I truly believe it. I think the resources are out there, but they won't come to you. We need to knock on doors. We need to go out and look for them. You know, I'm a big proponent of the importance of education, of going to college and going and do a postgraduate degree if possible. You know, we hear a lot today, Peter, about, oh, I don't need a degree to be successful. There's a lot of that movement. Oh, look at Mark Zuckerberg, look at Elon Musk, they're college dropouts and they're successful. Yeah, of course. There's a lot of people that are successful without going to college. I get it, I understand it. And people say, you know, the title, the diploma, it's not gonna do much. And I get it. What I think, or you know, this is my opinion, is the experience or the concept of going to college, of leaving your hometown or of leaving your home, of meeting students from other parts of the world with different ideologies, different cultures, different backgrounds, is what makes you open your eyes and see the importance, you know, getting involved in the hundreds of student organizations in college, the various resources of mentorship, of leadership that you can get in college, you're not going to get elsewhere. So I get the argument that I don't need a title or a college degree to be successful, but I really do think that the experience of going to college will broaden or expand your horizon, will open your eyes to be successful. And the competitiveness that you see at colleges today about being successful, about giving back to the community, about being involved, about having a seat at the table, I think it's very important. And Peter, I know not everyone has the opportunity to go to college. I know there's, you know, single mothers that, you know, don't have the time, or there's, you know, undocumented students that might have a great barrier to secure a federal grant. But I think most people can go to college, and whether it's community college that is free, whether it's securing a federal grant, whether it's getting student loans, where it's getting a scholarship external to the university or merit-based, it's out there. My dad used to say, en Estados Unidos, el que no quiere estudiar es porque no quiere, ¿no? El que no estudia es porque no quiere. And maybe that in other countries or in Latin America, maybe you can't study because you really can't. But in the US, you know, there's a lot of opportunities. And I think we need to take advantage of those resources and go to college and if you can, you know, go to med school, go to law school, go to graduate school, and pursue those opportunities that this country offers.
Absolutely. And I want to touch on a little bit on what you said about the Mark Zuckerberg and the Elon Musk. You got to remember there's like 1 or 2 people in a seat of 7.1 billion people in
Of
the world.
course, yeah.
Right? And if you look at Elon Musk's mother, okay, is a lady that has 2 degrees in chemistry. Okay, so the foundation for education, okay, has been as part of a family legacy. Okay, so yes, he did drop out of college, but he had a foundation of education that came to family legacy. The same thing goes for Mark Zuckerberg and many of the successful people that have dropped out of college and have gone on to create billion-dollar companies and become billionaires in their own right. Okay, but the reality is that there's very few of us Latinos that have that type of educational legacy, that have that generational wealth, that we are able to sustain those opportunities to go out and make it. The reality is that if Elon Musk, there's very unlikelihood that Elon Musk would have been Elon Musk if he would have been Elon Musk from Oaxaca, Mexico, or from South Texas. Okay, that's the reality. We cannot blind ourselves to that. I thank you for bringing that up. The fact that there's a lot of there's a lot of talk, primarily right now in social media. When you see somebody like Gary Vee or Grant Cardone, and they're not big proponents of formal college educations, what they don't realize is that we don't even have the basic foundation for financial literacy in many of our Latino homes, in many of our Hispanic homes. We don't even know how to balance a checkbook by the time we're out of high school. Okay, because our parents did not know how. They can't teach us what they did not know themselves. Okay, so there's a lot of lack of legacy education that is not transferred to us. Okay, our vocabulary is different. Okay, our programming is completely different. Our social conditioning is completely different. And not only that, many of us have had to battle the fact that our parents had to leave our country for poverty, for political prosecution, or for the safety of their lives or the lives of their children, or just to offer a better opportunity. So that alone, there's a lot of stress and a lot of trauma that is carry on into the family unit and it's bring on here. Okay, and many of us have gotten lost with the idea, okay, we go to America and there's a land of opportunity and we only focus on making a dollar, but we don't focus on educating ourselves. And we end up in the same trap that we were back at our home country, surviving and not thriving. Okay, so you're exactly right, Patricio. Education is a foundation, okay, of success. It's truly the foundation for of success. So tell me about some of the challenges that you face. You graduate from high school, you go into college. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced before you had a takeoff, before you paved the way?
Sure. For example, something I wanted to touch on is the importance of education. For example, in Brownsville, there was basically 2 options for my parents: go to public school or go to the small private school in that city. Obviously, the easy way out is go to the public school. But the understanding at that time between my parents and the circle of friends and family was that I was going to get a better education at the small private school. And because my parents knew that I don't care how much it will cost, we'll do whatever, and we'll work the extra mile, we'll sacrifice other things. We were raised as a middle class family. My dad made pesos in farming and ranching, and the school was in Brownsville, so the exchange rate it was very complicated. But the decision was, if they're going to get a better education at that private school, we'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. So I went to that private high school in South Texas, and I remember many times I would be called to the office by the principal, and they would tell me, "You're suspended." I'm like, "Why?" "Well, you haven't paid tuition." And at the beginning, I was, yes, I don't want to go to school. I'm gonna be sent home. But then you started realizing the sacrifice that my parents made to make that happen. To understand that, because again, it's very easy to say, I'll just send him to the public school, I'll save that money, and we'll maybe get out of this small house that we're renting and buy a house. But it's about, again, it all comes down to the power of a good education. And I was suspended many times, and that's when I valued the sacrifice that parents make in order for a good education for their children. And that's something I'm always going to remember. What my parents did, we weren't rich, money wasn't always available. We were very fortunate, and I'm very grateful for the sacrifices they made. And that was always a challenge, because I was suspended, and it wasn't funny after all, because I could see that my parents were struggling. And then I go to college and I start valuing all these different scenarios that I was built in. But as I went to UT, which is a huge school. I think it's about 50,000 students, and I come from a small town, and it was that jumping into the big leagues, and lots of students from different backgrounds. The city I grew up was 98% Latino. So I started making friends from all different backgrounds, and that's what really opened my eyes, and see the importance of other cultures, of other ideologies, of being able to shake hands and connect with other people. And because of leaving my hometown and getting outside my comfort zone, I think it's been a key to the success of many people. Getting out there and meeting other people, and getting outside your comfort zone.
I love that. Thank you. First of all, thank you for your vulnerability and talking about being suspended for your parents not paying the tuition. Because that's, I mean, a lot of times as we go through life, we don't realize the sacrifices that our parents made. I've been both very critical and very supportive of my parents. There's a lot of things that my parents did as parents that were pretty dysfunctional, and I've been very vocal about it. But at the same time, I'm very grateful for the sacrifices that they made, because one way or another, raising 13 children in America with a third grade and a sixth grade education is very, very commendable. It doesn't matter where you come from or who you are. So, kudos to your dad for making that effort, that sacrifice to push through to make sure that you graduated from a better, educational system than the one that the public system provided for you. Now, let's talk about the education system, because that's probably one of the biggest bases for the Latino community. Okay. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people in our audience, a lot of families that have children, that are raising Latino children, that are not going to be able to provide the good quality education of a private school system. Okay. But what are some of the tips that you would give a young Patricio that perhaps was unable to go to a private school? What are some of the things to look for, to be able to look for in school, to prepare themselves to make sure that they stay in a path of success?
Yeah, of course. At that time, I'm not sure, what was going to be the best education for me, whether the public system or the private system. In that particular case, my parents decided, there was that small private Catholic school, and that's where I ended up. It's on a case by case basis, but what students have to do in high school is understand that the opportunities don't come to you, and the resources are out there. High schools have the resources of having college counselors, career day, mentorship day, where you bring alumni, the lawyer, the doctor, the engineer, the architect, the elected official. Seek out those opportunities, take advantage, talk to the counselor, talk to your teachers, apply to college, visit when there's the college visits, go talk to the college counselors or the recruiters, and again, it's about you having the initiative of getting out there, of putting your name out there and knocking on doors and attempting to go to college. That's the most important thing, because no one's, in our culture, maybe our parents are not going to know how to go to college because they probably didn't go to college, or they didn't go to college in the US, like it was my case. So, it's not going to be up to them, because they don't know how to push you, and maybe they won't push you. So I think as Latinos, sometimes, we're motivated that, like my dad used to say, para atrás ni voltees. O sea, don't think about coming back and working for me, because there's nothing. And that's the motivation that I had to be myself and have my own and work for my own success, because I didn't have that platform about going back with dad and working with dad and working for his company, because there was no company.
Right.
So I knew that if I didn't go to college, if I didn't get a degree, if I wasn't able to financially, work by myself, I had no other option. So I think that's a great motivation as well, to know that, no one's going to be behind you helping you. It's all up to you, and you better figure it out. And I think that was a great motivation on my part, knowing that it was all up to me.
Yeah. And to your point, one of the things that I did very, very early on, because I was one of those parents early on that learned the hard way about education, right? And I wanted to make sure that I broke the cycle. Number one, I encouraged my son from very, very young age, including the father and son trips that we ever did were to colleges and universities across the country. Okay, we would do a father and son
that's awesome
every year, and I would just take him to a different campus and to encourage him. That was the important. How important it was to go to college. And as you know, he's at OSU today and is going to be going to grad school at UT. But also, I also encourage him to do other things. In school, very early on, I said, you take the front row seat. You sit right up front. You never sit in the back, and you never sit with the group of people. You go sit right in front. And after the first day of school, I was encouraged to go and introduce himself to the teacher. Okay, I said, the teachers are hungry to teach. That's why they picked that vocation. So go introduce yourself to the teacher. And if you don't understand something and you're too embarrassed to ask her in class, go after class and ask. Okay, but always make sure that they remember who you are. Make sure that you say yes and thank you and please and little things that have really allowed my son to stand out in the masses of the other students that often get lost. And they get lost because they don't make an effort to be seen. And I wanted my son to learn to be seen and to be heard. And I think in our culture, that's one of those taboos that we need to break. We need to be seen, we need to be heard, but we also need to contribute. Okay, we can't just take, we need to contribute. When there's an opportunity to be of service to others, we need to show up and serve others as well. Patricio, so tell us about your practice today. You were just recently in Spain. Tell us about the clients you represent and the companies that you're working with today, and tell us a little bit about that.
Of course. So I do a lot of corporate transactional work, and it's something I enjoy a lot because a lot of it is cross-border international, primarily with Latin America. And because of my background of being, fully binational, bilingual, bicultural, I kind of found that practice of law very interesting. So what I do is I try, or our firm, which is a boutique firm, we're a small team, we do some sort of soft landing for investors or companies or corporations to come and explore the market or sell a product or a service or invest, primarily Texas, because I'm licensed here in Texas. So, we do mergers and acquisitions and business formations and purchase agreements and things of that sort. And I enjoy it every day because I take advantage of my knowledge of the culture in Latin America, because the clients might be from Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Central America, or Mexico. And it's fun every day because, you're dribbling with the law in the U.S., but the culture from another country. So it's been very fun. There's a lot of working with other attorneys from other countries and negotiations. And I was like I was telling you earlier in the podcast, I was in Spain last week, and I was out there visiting various business organizations like the Madrid Chamber of Commerce and the U.S. Spain Foundation and with the Secretary of Entrepreneurship of Madrid. And I visited various law firms promoting investment in Texas, because Texas, not only is it a trend, but it's Spain's fifth. For Texas, Spain is the fifth largest foreign direct investor.
Wow.
Texas is very business friendly, as you know. Florida and Texas, I think, are competing for foreign investment, and Texas is a great state for investing, for real estate, for quality of life. And you've seen it. You're also in the business world. So I think we're fortunate of being here, and I'm fortunate to practice law in the great state of Texas.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on all your success in your business. My last question is going to be at the importance of, you talked about being bicultural, right? But I want to talk about the importance of becoming acculturated when you come from another country to America. I think I saw my mother passed away and she died without speaking English, and she lived in the States 50 something years, but every day I would, when I would come visit her, her Spanish television would be on, her radio station would be on in Spanish, and she never really made an effort to really become part of the culture, or even built a community within the culture. And then we see also the other thing. We see the opposite. We see the opposite of where we build communities within our community, right? We bring the little Mexico, the little Tokyo, the little, which is fine. I think we should all stay rooted to our culture. But I think there was a lady, my domestic worker that works for me, and we were having a conversation. She was asking me questions about Excelente, and I told her, I said, you don't need to forget your culture, but I think it's very important that you become acculturated to the U.S. culture, and you can become an American in order to be able to maximize your knowledge and the power. And you're able to understand both cultures, and you're bicultural. You have incredible power to be able to move around and assimilate and have opportunities that you may not have if you only stay acculturated to the country. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what your stance on that is.
Yeah, Peter, I think the advantage that we have to really take advantage that we both have is knowing both cultures and being able to adapt to both cultures. If being in one scenario and being in the other, because you're maximizing your potential and being able to socialize or work in a Latin American culture, but also being able to work and socialize in a culture here in America. And that's a great advantage nowadays with globalization, with so much going on across countries, with social media, with people traveling all around the world. We're doing business all around the world. It's very important to be, having the ability to adapt to different cultures, to speak to languages. I encourage people to, to Latinos that maybe they haven't been practicing Spanish, or maybe Spanish isn't as recurrent as it was when they were younger, to practice it, to get it back on track, because having that, being bilingual will open a lot of doors, whether it's English and French, English and Spanish. You're going to stand out. And as Latinos, I think it's very easy to be bilingual, and today with globalization, being bilingual will open a lot of doors, and of course being bicultural as well.
Absolutely. Well, Patricio, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed our conversation. What would be some closing words for our audience?
No, of course. First of all, I encourage for everyone to keep following your movement. I think it's important that we have entrepreneurs and speakers and authors like you to have a seat at the table, to motivate, to inspire young Latinos out there that have the talent, that have the skill, that have the potential, but they need to tap it. They need people to tell them, look, these are the opportunities. You have the talent. Let's go to college. Let's pursue the business. Let's go to grad school, become a doctor, become a lawyer. Whatever it is, I think the talent is out there. We just need people to get them under their wings and mentor. Like you're a mentor. I try to be a mentor because I know the potential is there, and it's important we really maximize the opportunities that this country offers.
Patricio Gutierrez, another excellent success story. Thank you so much.
Gracias, Peter. Appreciate the invitation. Take care.